The village of Tsukimura rested in a valley between mist-covered mountains, where the sound of the Hakume River blended with the distant clang of blacksmiths' hammers. It was said that this was a place where the spirits of the past still walked among the living, unseen yet ever present. At the heart of the village, inside an ancient forge worn by time, lived Haruto, a young blacksmith whose fate would change forever on a night of blood-red moonlight. That night, as he worked on a katana commissioned by a wandering samurai, Haruto heard a strange sound coming from the forge's basement, a place his late grandfather had forbidden him to enter. Drawn by curiosity and the eerie call echoing beneath the floor, he descended the creaking stairs. Under the dim candlelight, he found an iron chest sealed with old, rusted chains and yellowed talismans. The moment he touched the chains, a chilling wind swept through the forge, and the talismans burned away instantly. The chains snapped, and the chest opened with a dry crack. Inside rested an ancient katana, its blade black as the night, pulsing with an energy that made the air tremble. As his fingers brushed the hilt, a voice echoed in his mind. "Finally, you have freed me." Haruto recoiled, but it was too late. The sword was awake. Haruto was a young blacksmith of only 23, grandson of a renowned craftsman who, according to rumors, had sealed a cursed blade decades ago. Unlike his grandfather, Haruto did not believe in superstitions, only in the art of forging. To him, a sword was an extension of the warrior's soul, but as he touched the blade, he felt a deep cold, as if his very soul was being torn from within. The voice in the sword belonged to Raizen, a legendary samurai of the past, betrayed and murdered by those he had served. His spirit had been sealed within the katana, condemned to wander the mortal world until his vengeance was fulfilled. He demanded that Haruto wield the sword and right the wrong that had bound him. "Take me up, young blacksmith, and together we will bring justice," Raizen whispered. Haruto hesitated. He had never wielded a sword to fight, only to forge them with his own hands. But when he looked at the blade, he saw his reflection distorted, his eyes glowing with a spectral light. Something inside him was already changing. The next day, Haruto began investigating Raizen's story. He visited the village elders and found ancient scrolls recounting the samurai's tragedy. Raizen had been a loyal retainer of the Takasawa clan but was falsely accused of conspiracy by his own lord. Executed in disgrace, his soul remained bound to the blade, seeking justice against the descendants of those who had condemned him. "Their blood still runs in this land," Raizen whispered. "They live in comfort, while I rot in oblivion." Haruto discovered that the descendant of Lord Takasawa still ruled the region, a man named Lord Masaru. If vengeance was fulfilled, Raizen would finally find peace. But there was a terrible price. Every strike with the sword consumed part of the wielder's soul. Haruto felt it when he accidentally cut through a wooden log while testing the blade. A searing pain tore through him, as if something was being ripped from within. His reflection in the steel showed a pale, shadowed face. "With every cut, you become part of me," Raizen said. "There is no vengeance without sacrifice." Now Haruto faced an impossible choice. Should he become the instrument of Raizen's revenge, knowing it would consume his very essence? Or should he break the cycle of hatred, even if it meant his own death? Haunted by the voices of the sword and the weight of his decision, Haruto set out for Lord Masaru's castle. Along the way, he encountered Kaidi, a childhood friend who had become a shrine maiden. She sensed the dark aura surrounding Haruto and warned him. "This sword does not bring justice, only more suffering," Kaidi cautioned. "If you continue down this path, you will lose everything you are." But Raizen's voice hissed in his mind. "She does not understand. Only blood can cleanse betrayal." At the castle, Haruto faced Masaru's guards. With every strike, he felt his consciousness slipping away, his vision growing hazy. When he finally reached the great hall, he found the Lord, a frail, elderly man who fell to his knees at the sight of the sword. "I know that blade," Masaru said, terrified. My grandfather, he was the one who killed Raizen. Haruto raised the sword to deliver vengeance, but his hand trembled. Then, a new truth was revealed. Masaru was no tyrant. He had spent his life trying to atone for the sins of the past, helping the poor and protecting the village. Is Raizen's vengeance truly just? Haruto questioned himself. It does not matter, Raizen replied. The cycle must be complete. Haruto realized that if he killed Masaru, the curse would never end. Another vengeful spirit would be born, another blade would be wielded, and the cycle would continue forever. With a cry, Haruto drove the sword into the ground. I will not be your instrument of hatred, Raizen. The blade trembled and screamed, as if Raizen's very soul was trying to escape. Enraged, the spirit manifested in spectral form, attempting to possess Haruto. But Kaede, who had secretly followed him, cast a sacred seal upon the sword. Raizen howled, his form dissipating like mist in the wind. If there is no one left to carry my hatred, then I fade away, were his final words, before vanishing at last. The blade cracked and crumbled to dust. Haruto collapsed, exhausted. His soul remained intact, but he felt as though something within him had changed forever. In gratitude, Lord Masaru vowed to honor Raizen's memory, ensuring that his story was passed down as a lesson for future generations. Haruto returned to the village, but he never forged another sword. Instead, he dedicated himself to teaching the younger generation the true meaning of strength, not in the edge of a blade, but in the courage to break the cycles of hatred. On the last night of autumn, as he gazed at the full moon reflected in the river, he heard a whisper in the wind. Thank you, and then silence.